Yeah, it's always a tricky situation when you deal with anything, any kind of a podcast. Like, it would be easy to talk every day about, like, aliens, and it would be easy to talk about, like, celebrity stuff every day. When we talk about news commentary, and if that's what you do, and that's what I do, and many others do, coming out of my world, it's 80% of the time going to be bad news. It's going to be bad news. There are nasty things that happen out of there. But it's all about how you frame it. And you can take what happened yesterday with the Old Dominion and a synagogue attack in Michigan. Terrible, terrible stories, right? There's something different these days. And I think it would be irresponsible not to talk about how different things are these days and how we respond to them and how people deal with this. And how, I'm always on this soapbox, and how we look at how the media covers these things. It's all different now. So even though these are horrific news stories, there's a lot of good to take away from them, believe it or not. And we're going to try our best. Also talk about the Florida SAVE Act. That's right, the state of Florida is instituting its own system through the legislature, and they announced this yesterday, to secure elections. Now, if a state can do it, why can't the lazy feds? Why can't the elected senators? Why can't our national representatives? You know why. And we'll wrap it up with this. Let's laugh at the people who are supposed to make us laugh. Late night comedy hosts. Here's a shocker. 94% of the time are bagging on America for the Iran conflict. There's a shocker. Look what they did to comedy. God, what a shame. That nothing angers me more than that, because they're the people who are supposed to give us relief. Anyway, let's get to it. One more day on the road. Hopefully, fingers and toes crossed, my internet service stays very shaky so far as I'm on the road. But welcome to Friday. I hope you have an awesome weekend. Thanks for finding the live stream. Wicked Radio Monday through Friday on X and YouTube and on Facebook and the replay and the audio podcast, where most of you apparently like to find it. Apparently, audio is still king, all right? I don't make the decisions. Wherever you like to get your podcast to. Let's get to it. Again, this is how I'm going to frame this. I'm going to pose this to you. Horrific, horrific news stories that used to just lie there, and that's it. Here's an attack. Here's the story. Here's the tragedy. Here's, let's stick a camera and a microphone in the face of all the victims, and they'll leave it at that. That's how it used to be, right? Things are different now. Things are different in two ways. First of all, how the media covers it, because we're starting to demand answers now and the truth. And the second thing is, well, if you want to talk about the Old Dominion story, students are taking care of things themselves. What do I mean by that? And I'm going to tell you this. I refuse to apologize for this. I refuse to apologize for calling this a good thing, because it's already out there. There's morning shows on, TV networks right now as we speak in real time saying it's terrible that there are people celebrating the fact that students at Old Dominion University unalived the attacker. No, that's not a terrible thing, and I'm sorry, and I refuse to apologize for that, because that's exactly what they did. What was fascinating about this, beyond the tragedy of what happened at that school, and there were 3 people who were shot. We'll get into the attacker, the terrorist, here in a second, and an actual terrorist, like by definition. The news conference was fascinating, because this was the first time anybody found out that students took care of it themselves. Here's the special agent in charge.
How was he deceased?
There were students who were in that room that subdued him and rendered him no longer alive. I don't know how else to say it, but they basically were able to terminate the threat.
So he was not shot?
He was not shot.
He shot 3 people?
Correct. We have information that he shot 3 people.
The one that went to Virginia.
This was the news conference, obviously, and then every network in the world covers it. And then in real time, this is where talking TV news heads actually have to do some work and go off script. And then they go back live. And if you watched any of the coverage of this, Fox, CNN, any of it, they were like, because they're trying to piece together what she just said. The attacker is dead. Well, did the police take him out? No. The students took him out. Yes. Follow-up question. But he wasn't shot. No. Put the pieces together. Students took this attacker out, and, he wasn't shot, but he was unalived. Let's put it that way. With whatever means they had. These are ROTC kids, right? And again, there's a lot of people, including me, and I'm fully honest about that, and I'm completely transparent, saying that's a good thing. I see that as good. Forget about the pearl clutching and all the people out there telling you, it's terrible. Violence is never an answer to violence. Oh, well, you're dealing with these kinds of animals. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it actually is. Here's the other thing that's different. You may have noticed this. I'm just keyed into this because the target of my ire is always media and media coverage and press conferences like that. They're saying things like that. Let me ask you this. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, would that special agent in charge come out and said that? Or it just would have been, we're collecting details at this time. No, they tell you the truth now. You know why that happens? Because it takes a long time, but over the years, millions and millions of people demand answers, and they demand the truth. And they demand the truth. They demand that real questions are asked. So here's some other questions. What do we know about this winner of this attack at Old Dominion University? The shooter is again, unalived, Mohammed Jallah, born in Sierra Leone, became a naturalized U.S. citizen. Sounds like a beautiful American love story so far, doesn't it? Until you get to this. Radicalized by Al-Qaeda. Oh, wait a minute, Bill, you're just making that up. Oh, no, it's documented. Why? Well, convicted, U.S. court of law, convicted for providing material support to ISIS. You're asking the same question I am right about now in the timeline. Well, why was he even why did this happen? Well, hold on. Sentenced to 11 years in prison. Okay, well, then what happened? Oh, there's the key element of the story. Released from prison early under, take a guess which administration. Yeah, the one before this one. Yeah. Now, will they make this story disappear like the Old Dominion kids made this loser disappear? Maybe. They're going to try, but I bet you it'll take longer. It's a harder task now because we're all aware now. We're all aware of how the media plays its games, and we know how to ask the right questions, and we demand it. And eventually that trickles down. It trickles down to the kinds of reporters that were at that press conference who get to ask the right questions of the special investigator. That's how we get to the truth. It takes a long time. Guys, we're 60, 70 years of propaganda to work through, but it's getting better in real time. It is. What else do we know? Well, Fox News, I think it was Fox and Friends actually today, had this guy on. His name is James Gagliano. He's a special investigator. He's a special guest. He's a contributor to Fox. Here's what else he added to the story.
Should have gone to jail for 20 years, Lawrence, and I believe did somewhere in the neighborhood of 132 months. And again, it goes back to that suicidal empathy. The judge here decided that somebody that was tried and convicted of providing material support to ISIS deserved a second chance. And this was his second chance. We are going to see more ISIS-related and inspired attacks. And why is that? Well, propaganda and attention is the coin of the realm in the terror business. And ISIS doesn't want Hamas and Hezbollah getting all the attention. So I think now more than ever, we need to pay attention to these potential lone wolf attacks.
Isn't that interesting? Boy, he said it in a quick little clip better than I ever could, fumbling around here, but he's exactly right. Suicidal empathy, and you hear that term more and more these days. Suicidal empathy. Well, we got to give him a chance. We have to do this. And then you have, none of this is possible if you don't have media coverage that glossed over this kind of stuff time and time and time again. If you go back even 8 years, by this time in the story, we wouldn't have known this guy's name. We wouldn't have known where he was from. We wouldn't have known that he was let out early, even though he was convicted of working with ISIS. We wouldn't have known that, but we know now. This is how it happens. You have to demand answers, and don't ever, ever feel, blame me if you want. Don't ever feel bad about feeling good about Old Dominion students taking this loser out. Don't ever feel bad about that, because they're trying. Oh, you see, I've already seen it today. Just getting ready for the live stream. 2 or 3 morning shows on national networks. And violence is begetting violence as people across the country are celebrating what the Old Dominion students did. See, they can't deny that the Old Dominion students took out an attacker on their campus. They can't do that because it was there in the special investigators press conference. They're going to try to make you feel bad about that. Don't at all. Well, we got another tragic story to talk about. Again, it's how you frame it. If we just stuck with the details of these attacks that happened just yesterday in our country, we leave it at that, and then everybody's all depressed and there's no answers. But there are more answers because people are asking the right questions. Unfortunately, a synagogue attack in Michigan. Michigan, deep blue Michigan, right? You're safer there. There will be no attacks like that. Right. You will find attacks like this when you have prosecutors who won't enforce gun laws. Here's some horrible details.
We're told it's an active shooter. We can or could see, this is earlier video of smoke coming from the synagogue. And there's a fire, appears to be a fire, smoke coming from the synagogue.
Yeah, okay, we got another winner there. More violence. Who's this guy? Who's this winner? Well, here's the details out. Getting the details again this early in the story. That's all part of the timeline. That matters because it wasn't too long ago. We would have gone days and days if we ever got him at all. But we ask the right questions now because we demand it. Michigan synagogue attacker, an immigrant from Lebanon, Ayman Mohammed Ghazali. He arrived in the U.S. in 2011. Visa, quickly granted citizenship. That was Obama's administration in 2016. Okay, there you go. And of course, and again, I'm framing this as good news. Because even on, I keep calling it MSNBC. What's that stupid network called now? MS Now? Another stupid panel talking about it, and they bring out their anti-Semitic experts all the time because everything's blame Israel all the time. But there's some guy, and I had to look this guy up. I hadn't been aware of him before. His name is Stephen Kent. And he posted this clip, actually, of his participation on this panel where he says, God, give me patience with these people to try to correct him. Look at him correct her. Now, the name of the synagogue, because it has Israel in the name, this panelist tried to connect that to this was a synagogue connected to the state of Israel, right? Until he shot her down as calmly as he possibly could. But this is the kind of crap that they try to push all the time.
This situation, this was an Israeli temple. It was aligned with Israel. I will say that.
A Jewish temple?
A Jewish temple.
A Jewish synagogue is not an Israeli temple.
It's called the Real Israel Temple.
They're Jewish.
Okay.
They're the people of Israel.
How do you
So
define?
I'm just finish my point. So
It was wrong from the premise. They're not Israeli. They're Jewish.
So they're called the Real Israeli Temple, yes? And they do align with Israel and their beliefs. So this was...
That guy's great. I gotta look at him up. He just no, it's not. It's not an Israeli synagogue. It's called the Real Temple of Israel because they are the people of Israel. It's not connected to the state. She says, yes, it is, and he says, no. I like that guy. But was that just again? I keep going back to this, but it's true. You have to look at what's going on now. Would you have had that guy a couple of years ago on MS Now, of all things, correcting her in real time live on the air? I don't think so. But they feel emboldened to do so now because she's just pushing this propaganda and pushing this lie. She was trying to tell their idiotic viewers that this temple was connected to and funded by the state of Israel. And he's like, no, just because that's in the name, that doesn't mean that. She didn't care. She still pushed it anyway. All right. Well, I'm telling you, the good news is people are pushing back in many different ways. Now, literally fighting back like the old Dominion kids, but also asking the right questions. You're starting to see it. I tell you all the time, demand more answers out of these media sources. Eventually, it takes a long time and a lot of work, but eventually you get it, and you're starting to see it. All right, let's start. Where's our SAVE Act? Hold on, let me take a look around. Washington, D.C., is that it? Did we get it done? Did we pass? No. Useless, corrupt senators won't pass this thing. Some are trying. But let me give you an example of how this can be done. This was a major announcement from the state of Florida yesterday. They had kind of like a state of the state address. DeSantis was there talking about things. And also was Blaze Ingoglia. How's that for a name? I want my state CFO named Blaze. He's going to blaze a trail through the corruption, right? And the guy pretty much is. Florida's going to have its own SAVE Act. In other words, securing elections. So why can't the feds do it? Why can't we have this federally? You know why. They don't want to. But here's how it could be done. Here's a little bit of him yesterday.
The state of Florida is on the verge of passing its own version of the SAVE Act, which is going to look for voter ID and also to verify that the people that are voting in our elections are indeed actual U.S. citizens.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that a state with 67 counties and I forget what the latest update, I think 13 million people in Florida? Wait a minute. You mean a large state independently can do that, can secure their elections and demand voter ID and get it? Wait, what? Really? It can be done? Of course it can be done. Of course it can. It's just a matter of wanting to get it done. It just makes an example like this, and just because it's one state and just because it's Florida, don't discount the importance of this. This puts much more pressure on these useless, absolute corrupt Democrats, but also lazy, useless Republicans, the handful that aren't voting for the SAVE Act. It puts more pressure on them. And I hope, you know what I would love this weekend? I would love for Trump to say, in my now new home state of Florida, the fantastic state legislature just passed their own SAVE Act, which means we can do it now. It'll put more pressure and more eyeballs on our elected representatives in Congress to get this done. There's absolutely no excuse, as we know, but whatever. My fear, though, is the bad part of this is going to be even more people moving to Florida. If you're a fellow Floridian now like me, we're full. No more, okay? Anyway. All right, late night TV host. Here's another shocking piece of news for you. they're bagging on the U.S. involvement in Iran. There's a shocker, right? But there's an organization called the Media Research Center that I wouldn't want this job. They collected all of the content, on-air content, since the conflict started. Since we started to enact strikes on Iran and take out the tyrannical Islamic regime. They collected and they quantified all of the content, added it up. Some poor intern had to sit there and watch all of these idiots, and they came out with this. 94% of the content, mostly in monologues, but some in interviews from all of these late-night hosts who have destroyed comedy, quite frankly. 94% is anti-American in our efforts there. Here's a little sample. Hate to do this to you, but here's the example.
After launching yet another illegal war in the Middle East that could destabilize the region and put American troops in harm's way, Trump has been spending his time doing what all presidents do during wars, taking calls from reporters.
Just after midnight, the Pentagon launched what they are calling Operation Epic Fury, which is different from its original title, which was Operation Epsteino Distracto.
This military mission has been dubbed Operation Epic Fury. Fun fact, Epic Fury is an anagram for Forget Epstein.
So far,
Isn't that amazing? When you have nothing else, when you have no other content, just go to Epstein. Well, imagine in the writer's room, well, I mean, I think they pretty much come out and, even Bill Clinton said Trump had nothing to do with that. Doesn't matter. Go with Epstein. We have nothing else. We have no more content. And I love, every time I hear clips like that and we bag on these formerly funny late night hosts, I always listen to the audience reaction. Do you ever get that? I mean, I know that you, like me, you're not actually watching these shows live. But I always listen to the audience reaction. Like, who was it there? Was it Colbert, I think? Operation Epic Fury. And the audience goes, oh. Not one of these idiots live in their studio audience actually understands what's happening here and the success we've had in this operation to make Americans, including those dopes, safer. Not one of them understands that. The dumbing down of America is real, and you see it and you hear it in reactions like that. And the very few people who actually watch and listen to these late night hosts. You know why I hate them? Because they destroyed comedy. Back in the day with Letterman and even Leno, but certainly Johnny Carson, the whole point was to make fun of everybody so that we can all kind of come together and make everybody laugh at the end of a long, stressful day. It's how it used to be. Not so much now. But again, I always filter this through rose-colored glasses. You make fun of me for that, but I'll do it again. There's always a good takeaway because things are getting better. So what's the good takeaway in that, Bill? 94% of you just said it, 94% of the content is just spreading lies and saying that this is all distraction from Epstein. True, but combined all together, you know what else the Media Research Center said? The late night hosts have never had lower ratings, which means people aren't buying it. There's always good news to the story these days because we're starting to demand answers for these questions. So, see what I mean? Even though they're terrible stories, like what happened in Old Dominion in Virginia and in Michigan, there are answers there. There's good if you can find it. Anyway, thanks for finding me. I appreciate you. I'll be back home on Monday. Back in the studio with a better internet connection and a better background, I promise. But thanks for finding me for the live stream and the replay on Wicked Radio for Facebook and X and on YouTube. Audio podcast always gets posted shortly after the live stream. You can listen to that whenever, and apparently you are, a lot of you. So thank you. Appreciate you very much. More importantly, despite all this stuff, it's Friday. You got a weekend on your hands. Enjoy it with your family. Be safe. Have some laughs, would you? And enjoy. Thanks for hanging out with me. Make it a wicked awesome weekend. Talk to you Monday.